Oh, goodness. Well, welcome to another episode. I love being able to interview really great people. And one of the biggest things that we hear about the podcast, because we've been doing this for almost 7 years, is how great the guests are and the practical takeaways. And, yes, we're talking about something that's really heavy, but we bring, a little bit of humor, some fun, some practical, all the while talking about the reality of what people are facing. And I think that's a really great segue because Amy Slate is the breakup broker. And today we're going to be talking about real estate and all the things related to that. But Amy, I want to welcome you to my show.
Thanks for having me.
So, talk to us a little bit about your experience and why you are the breakup broker. What led you to this point today, and a little bit about your experience with real estate.
Sure. And that is a twisty, turny story. So I'm in my eighth year of real estate. I am based in Greater Boston, also licensed in Florida. That's kind of the background information. But last year, spring of 2024, I was unpleasantly surprised with a divorce by my soon-to-be ex-husband, and quickly had to kind of gather my life, move back to Massachusetts from Florida where I was living, and just kind of reestablish myself closer to friends and family and begin thinking about rebuilding my business because I was now the only game in town, the only paycheck, like it was all on me. Simultaneously, I was in Facebook groups, divorce support groups, like all these things where I was experiencing women going through divorce and separation and just hearing their concerns and their frustrations. And so much of it revolved around the real estate piece. Do I sell my house? How do I sell my house? Do I have to sell my house? Should I rent? Like all these just unknowns. And I could feel the struggle and the stress coming from them because as someone who does this for a living, my own housing situation was super stressful to me. And again, I do it every day. And so it was like real estate layered on top of divorce, like the amount of stress was just gargantuan. And so I just really started feeling for these women. And then one day I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I can just be a resource and a support person and help them and provide them knowledge and consult with them and get them through this super complicated and stressful situation. And the breakup broker was born.
I love it. I love it. And, I think the other piece of it, right, is we've been able to partner for you to be the concierge real estate expert. So for those of you who are listening and you're like, oh, yeah, I need to find somebody, Amy can help you. She can help you vet the real estate agent that you're working with in your area. She can point you in the right direction. She can make sure that you've got what you need. And I think that's a lot of times, right, where people are like, I don't even know where to start. So I love being able to point people to where do I start? Well, Amy's a great place for you to start because she can help you navigate, through those pieces. Along those lines, though, I know that one of the things that a lot of people will ask me about is rental properties. Maybe they own multiple properties in multiple states, and it's like, okay, what does that look like? So talk to us a little bit about your experience in that arena as well.
Sure. So yes, it's to further complicate the divorce process. We do own multiple properties across multiple states and even in Europe. And thinking about, okay, how do we divide that? Do we divide that? Who sells what? Who's the real estate agent? Like all the parts and pieces can be super stressful. And even while owning them, who gets to collect the rent? Who's paying the mortgage? Because when you have just the family home, it's more or less clear cut about who's living there and who's paying. When you've got all these extraneous things, you're like, okay, but wait a minute now. How do we sort this all out? And depending on how contentious or amicable you are, that can take on different shapes. But understanding the investment property world, I think really helps me when I come across divorcing people who are like, but we have this place that's like our vacation home that we also Airbnb, so it's an investment. And what do we do with that? Or the flip side, as you and I have talked a lot, is like women who, okay, the dust on the divorce has settled, and now they've got a chunk of money. And, the stock market is what the stock market is. Real estate's also kind of a safe investment, but they're afraid to dabble in investment properties. I'm like, I'm here to tell you, you can do it. I don't fix toilets, don't get me wrong, but I can call a plumber, right? Like I know the things to do, I know the pitfalls, and I can, it's not as scary as I think a lot of people see it to be. and it can also be super lucrative. And I think as a woman, it's super empowering to know that like I've got this asset that is generating income for me and I can do it.
Yeah. I love that. And it actually reminds me of a story of a gal that I worked with. This was probably 5, 6 years ago. And she decided to buy a duplex. And, we'd crunched the numbers and looked at all the pieces and worked with the real estate agent. And at the end of the day, right, it was an opportunity for her to be able to purchase something,
Mhm.
right, that then was covering a good portion of the mortgage. She was building equity. I mean, it was just awesome.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of it is, yeah, you don't have to do all the stuff yourself. You don't have to be overwhelmed with all of the fix-its. You just got to find the right people
Yep.
to do those things. And so I love that because I think there are probably women that are listening, right? That are like, I've kind of always thought, like, man, I'd really like to do a rental property, or I really like to Airbnb, and I really don't know the ins and outs of it or how to go about doing it, but it's been kind of on my list, right? And now that they have an opportunity to revisit their financial situation, it could be something that they want to explore further. So I love that you can be that resource for women that might be thinking for that as well. So talk to us a little bit about, the emotional toll that not only divorce can play, but the conversation around keep the house, sell the house, buy something else, rent. I mean, there's just a lot of decisions to be made around the house.
It's so much. And it falls into a couple kind of big buckets for me. The first is financial, like, find a great CDFA or someone who can advise you on like the numbers, the dollars and cents, the bottom line, the expenses and the income. And can you even afford to keep the house? Because if you can't, we're not even having this conversation.
Yes, and can I say something there
Yeah.
because I want to just address how many times women hear, "Well, you can't afford it," and I was like, "Okay, who's telling you that?" Well, the attorney's telling me that, or the my ex is telling me that. Okay, we're gonna like pause right here, and we're gonna say, listen, we just have to get the information. We got to be able to crunch the numbers. But as people are going through divorce, there are a few things that, if they are in place, you can be in a position to better and more clearly make that decision. And what that means is, hey, are you getting temporary support? I have several clients right now whose attorneys have suggested, well, we're just going to do status quo and husband's just going to pay the mortgage and he's doing you a favor and blah, blah, blah. No favor. What really could be happening, as an example, is he could pay you the support. It starts to have that clock of 6 months of showing that you have income from the
Hmm.
support. And then you turn around and pay the mortgage. Like, right? So
There's so many
just
ways.
like we are going to call BS
Yep.
that you can't afford it until we actually crunch the numbers. And then we maybe have a come to Jesus and we say, yeah, you really can't afford it. But do you know how often that is? Amy, it's like 1% of the
Hmm.
time when I'm like, yeah, there's no way. This is totally not a good idea.
Yep.
Right. And
Totally.
empowering people to make the decision if they want to keep it or not.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the one bucket is the money, the financial. Can you afford it? Once we figure that out, let's talk logistics. That's the second bucket. Are your kids in school in that town? You need to stay living there. Is that convenient to your commute for your commute to work? So you really need to stay in that general area. Like, does this house make sense for you? If you work remote and you have no kids, you can live anywhere, right? And so maybe you don't have to stay in the house. So logistics is like the second bucket. And then the third one is the emotional piece. And that is often like the toughest hill to climb because particularly for, families, women with kids, there are so many memories. We marked the kids, height on the door frame and they played in the backyard and we had Thanksgiving in the dining room. Like all those things come bubbling to the surface when you're like, I can't imagine not living here. And separating that is not easy, but I do think there are ways to approach it. Like let's say hypothetically you've outgrown this house. And like that divorce is not happening. Let's pretend divorce is not in the picture. You just have decided you've outgrown this house and you don't want to live here anymore. So you're like, I'm going to sell it. Those memories all still exist, but it's easier to like move to that next chapter because there's not this other layer of junk kind of in it. So really stepping back and acknowledging like, yes, I've had some amazing memories here. That doesn't mean I can't also have amazing memories elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
kind of just, and I'm not a divorce coach or a therapist, and there are amazing people that can help you process that too.
Yeah.
But knowing that the emotions are going to play into this. And I think super important for real estate agents too, who are involved in divorce transactions. Like this is an emotional hurricane. There's a lot going on, and you need to support your clients adequately.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting about the emotional piece of it because I think at the end of the day, right, selling a house is emotional regardless of whether or not you're going through divorce.
Yep.
Like I have a really close friend right now and they're selling their home because they're moving out of state. It's kind of a long story, but they're empty nesters, right? And I called her, I'm like, how's it going? And she's like, I'm so sad. Like and she's not getting divorced,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, like I think there's an aspect of what the house represents and this closing of a chapter. And a lot of times women are like, yeah, but I don't know where I'm going. And so again, like you said, yeah, you got to find that, professional that can help you navigate through those. But I also just want to acknowledge like it's okay to feel sad, right? Like it's okay to feel sad. You're probably going to feel sad.
Mhm.
Um, So I love how you've simplified the buckets. It's like, yes, we've got the financial bucket, the money bucket, we've got the